Evolve 360, conscious evolution. What will it take to evolve consciously, individually, and as a society? How will you lead a holistic life with soul? Welcome to the Evolve 360 Shelley Shell Show with hosts
Cheli Grace
and Shelley Devine. Hey, soul sister.
Hey, I wore my red today because it's one of those special episodes that we're doing for all of you guys, and I just can't wait for Shelley to tell you all about it.
I know, and you're looking mighty hot, lady. A little sassy.
Thank you.
Pizzazz, right?
It is sassy, and so are you. You look like you're ready to go out on the town, on the virtual town, so to speak, right?
Oh, well, would love to.
Right? Out on the, look at that. I love that blue. It's just beautiful. It's like a halter. I just absolutely, you look so gorgeous.
I'm all sexy.
Yes, you are. Sexy.
Yeah.
Birthday girl.
Yay, yay.
Yeah.
So did you want to set the intention before I introduce our guest?
Absolutely. And this show is mighty special because we just love you guys, and Shell and I are all about love. And the intention that I want to set, because I want you guys to keep an open mind, because you know our world is transitioned, and like I said to Shell, you're going out on the virtual town. So what I want you guys to do is just look outside of the norm. And the intention for the show is never give up on love.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So true. Love has so many aspects, right?
Absolutely.
Keeps us going.
It keeps us going. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So today we have a really special guest today. Today's guest uses relationship skills based on 40 years of relationship research and beautifully hand-drawn vision portraits. So you can love life and live with purpose. She helps purposeful people find love, stay together, deepen love, and above all, create a treasure map for life and love. Her belief is that real love is not fated, it's created. She's appeared on TEDx or the TED Talks as a speaker and has helped thousands of happy couples with her one-to-one or couple coaching, group programs, and online classes. Today, she's joining Shelley and I to discuss love in lockdown.
I just love that.
I know, right? Me too. I can't even wait.
I know. I'm so excited.
So we'd like to welcome to the show love and relationship artist, Cathy Garner. Hey, Cathy, welcome to the show. It's so good to see you. It's been so long.
I know, Cathy.
Good to see you.
I know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here.
We'd love to have you on.
See you again.
Thank you. Same here. Can't wait.
You. I know what people don't know is Cathy and I did this big class, a course together on Business Accelerator. Was it about like 2 years ago, Cathy?
Yeah.
And it's great to stay connected. These programs sometimes are just great ways to meet really incredible people.
Absolutely. It was a real privilege to be on that group with you, and so much has changed in both of our lives since then, hasn't it?
Crazy.
Yeah.
So today we wanted to get into, we got Valentine's Day coming up next month. And so we feel really blessed to have you on the show as the relationship artist, and love to hear a little background on how you got involved in coaching people in love and in relationships and developing relationship skills.
Well, I think like most of these stories, it doesn't have an obvious path. And quite often we end up doing what we do for desperation. That was certainly my story. Oh. Often the message we have comes from that kind of messiest part of us, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, my gosh.
And so
I know I came from a relationship.
That was very much the case for me. I had an early marriage, 21, divorced by 27. Set off still thinking that, I had it together. I kind of could figure this thing out, and had relationship after relationship. And as every relationship ended, I began to question, what is this? What's going on? And one day I remember, it was a few years into what I now call my desperate decade of dating.
Oh my God.
A few years in, a friend said
goodness.
to me, I was the single girl at the party. I don't know if you kind of know what that feels like.
Third wheel, everything. So
You know what that feels like. Yeah. So single girl at the party, year after year after year, always with some funny story about the last relationship and how it went wrong. Yeah. And a friend turned to me and very kindly, he said, Kath, there's only one common denominator in all your relationship disasters.
Oh God, that's a good
He's
friend.
Right.
She's telling you, right? Wow.
He's right. And it was me, and I knew it. So what I did then really was just get spurred on to try and figure out, how did I need to change me? And in a sense, that's the story of being the relationship artist. Because what I do is I combine relationship skills and they're evidence-based. So I set off and I read decades of brilliant research and discovered that love is not what we think it is. Love is not what we've been taught since childhood, since the fairy tales. It's not what Hollywood and Bollywood are telling us. Love is something very, very different. And whether we ever knew it as a species, I don't know, but the science makes it really, really clear how it works, how it fails. And knowing all of that just makes the whole thing so much simpler. And so it's always a relief when I start working with clients and they realize, oh, okay, there's only 4 things I need to avoid. There's only 3 things I need to get right.
Oh, wow.
It's really exciting. And there's we talk about the 2 mindsets and the one thing above all others that you need to make your relationship really fly. And so my husband calls it relationship by numbers.
Oh.
We've now been together.
The male mind as well as the female mind, because the guys like the logical, right? And they're like, oh, well, that works. Yeah, I can get behind that, right?
Well, the great thing about it is that because it's simple, you just have to do it. You may not want to do it. And that's what's the hard bit, right? And that's where the art comes in. So I call myself the relationship artist because what I do is I take people's vision for their relationship and I turn it into a portrait of their face.
It's amazing, Shelley.
Wow.
I've seen her work. It's amazing what she does and with different people. And then she creates like this whole amazing little drawing with words, right, Kath?
That's right. Yeah.
With words. It's really, they're beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
And
these would make great gifts, like if you're looking for a Valentine's Day gift or whatever for your spouse to keep things alive, this is a very cool gift.
Well, that's exactly what it does. Because what you do when you speak a vision, when you think about your vision, if you really think about it in real detail, you get into the detail, you start to see yourself as a slightly different person. And what these portraits do, I work through a whole load of exercises with people. We go really deep, but we also go into the future.
Oh.
And we see ourselves from the future. And so when you look at your portrait, you see an image of you, not as you are now, not as you have been, but as you choose to be. And suddenly something clicks. So you'll see your words, you'll just maybe you'll catch a little phrase, maybe in the scoop of an eye or a kind of an eyebrow or somewhere in your curls. And you'll think, oh, that's me.
Yeah. Right.
And your unconscious mind, clever little unconscious mind, suddenly goes to work to make that a reality.
That's beautiful, Cathy. And, you said something so profound that, because I know I've been in that scene, right? I got divorced when I was super young, and then you do the dating scene and you do all these relationships until one day you have to face yourself in the mirror and you realize, oh my goodness, I'm attracting the same kind of person. And until you work on you, you're really going to continue attracting the same kind of person. So I think that is so important for others to know, because I know that I broke my pattern, but I had to stop. I had to take a pause and really do some deep work on myself. And part of that deep work is when I met, Shelley at CMed with Carolyn Mace. We were just on that journey of learning as much about life as we could. And it took me to where I am today. So I just love that you said that. I really, so tell us, how long have you been married and how did you meet your husband?
Well, it's just been 10 years. We met 11 years ago.
Wow.
We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah. And we met, he doesn't usually tell, well, nowadays he's okay with it, but back in the day, even 10 years ago, he didn't like to mention that we'd met online. But,
Oh, okay.
but the truth is that we met before we met online. 7 years earlier, we met at a college reunion.
Wow.
And
wow.
neither of us even remembered it.
Wow.
We gradually, it was months into our relationship when we suddenly realized we met before.
And you were at the same event or whatever. Yeah. Wow. Isn't that
Did you guys, you went to the same college then, or?
He was a teacher 10 years after I'd left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went back for my reunion and he was just walking down with one of the other members of staff who'd been my English teacher. And we had a little chat and I just remember this tall, smiling man.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all I remember of him. And then we met again 7 years later. And he had been scrolling through, as you do, and he spotted this one face on page about 15 of the matches that had been sent to him. And he just clicked. And yeah, that's how we met.
Wow, that's
awesome.
Amazing.
That's funny how you met before and you didn't really realize, and then you're both dating later on online. Online right now, if we go back to love and lockdown, is a little. I don't even know how people would do that online now and then meet somebody. I know I've gone offline and not done anything since COVID. I've been just maintaining my single status and working away, doing some other things, but totally stopped dating. I wouldn't even know how to go about it right now.
Oh, it's interesting. I think it is really interesting, isn't it? I mean, this whole painful place that a lot of us are in right now is it's the single most challenging situation we faced, I think, as a species.
Right.
Certainly in any kind of living history that we will ever remember.
Yeah, because we're not meant to be isolated. We're meant to be in groups and have, even with family members. And if your family lives elsewhere, like my kids live elsewhere, I see them a lot less now, but it's just the whole dynamic of what COVID has done for people has been much different.
And it's created a whole new virtual culture too. So what tips do you have for people that are out there trying to find their significant other, their life partner? What tips do you have? How do they go about finding that right now with love and lockdown?
And this is what can be so amazing about this period of time that we've got right now. Because what we do is we create really, really firm foundations. I mentioned earlier there were just 3 things you had to get right to have a thriving relationship.
So I was going to ask, and we got a little sideline. What are they, Kat?
Well, the first one is friendship. And what often happens in a relationship is that we lead with passion and we lead with kind of attraction and that kind of crazy heady thing.
Hello, baby. Yeah, right.
We don't lead with friendship. But it's friendship that keeps our relationships afloat through all the storms of life. So I often describe it as a ship. If you imagine that your relationship or the relationship you want is a tall ship, and there are 3 parts to the ship. The first part is the hull. And the hull is what keeps that ship afloat.
Right.
If you do not build a strong hull of friendship, you're not going to get anywhere in a relationship.
It's true.
It's going to sink.
Right.
That's true.
It's going to flounder. So if you lead with friendship, now most relationships still don't lead with friendship, and that's fine as long as you build it later. But in COVID, we have this incredible opportunity to really develop strong friendships. Now, you need to know what friendship is, and we probably don't have time to go into all of that. But as I researched what friendship actually means, I came across 5 clear key areas that we really need to get good at if we want to have solid relationships and solid friendships with our significant other. So I teach the skills or the skill sets that help us to kind of build that really, really firm foundation. And so she'd learned that with this guy and they'd never even met. Now, of course, then you're slightly worried, aren't you? Are we going to have the frisson? Are we going to have the chemistry? And thankfully they did. And they are now living happily ever after, because of course, the other thing that COVID does is it gives you this choice, you know, are you going to get locked down together or apart?
Right. That's true.
All right.
So they chose to get locked down. Eventually they chose to get locked down together.
Wow.
Which was,
That's excellent.
yeah.
Wow.
Fast work. But
It might move a little faster, things a little bit faster, because you're more focused and there's none of this, you know, just playing around kind of stuff, right?
Right. And I think it just kind of makes you make a clear-cut decision as to what you really want and what you don't want. And I think once you get to that point, then you can totally see clearly, you know, I'd rather be on lockdown with you than on lockdown not with you.
Yeah, I like the whole intention setting. Like, Kath, I know you work with, you've actually helped turn marriages around that might have been, you know, couples that are struggling and stuff like that. And I think oftentimes when people get married, maybe early on, they have a vision. They might have a vision, but it's based on what maybe society and their parents and what they grew up with, maybe, if, you know, from religious backgrounds, all of that. And it only gets to a point of maybe, you know, okay, we got a great job, got the picket fence, got the dog, got the, you know, the nice house, we got, you know, everything's kind of in play, and then marriages fall apart, even though everything seems good. Yeah. And what happens? I mean, especially now, like some people might be stuck at home with their spouses, and they are struggling, probably because they're having that close proximity. They're not getting the airtime that they might need. So what are kind of some of the things that would turn around a situation that might be like, you know, you start having those negative thoughts towards and resentments towards one another, and you don't know how to, you don't have a skill, because you teach skills, and it's like, what would be a really great number one skill for somebody in that kind of situation?
Yeah. Now there's masses there. I would say there'll be two places you could really start. One is, answers that question about the this idea, or you described it as this kind of vision that you inherit almost.
Yeah.
Live this kind of life that may not really be you. And so I would say, think about your dreams, think about who you are. Because relationships that fall apart often fall apart because we're not really ourselves. Mm-hmm. We don't give space for each other to really be ourselves. Mm-hmm. And how can anything survive when it's not based on truth? You know, when we're not being who we are, then we're not really in relationship with that person who's also not being who they are. The only real relationships are the ones where you can be yourself. So that takes a lot of kind of soul searching. It can take a lot of just really understanding who you are. I talk about the joy compass, and this is a tool that I give to my clients, which is to follow the little glimmers of joy that get sparked in them. Because as we follow our joy compass, we really get to see what is true north for us. Where do we really want to go? Wow. Now, on one level, the destination is less important than who we are becoming as we're going on that journey.
And you bring up so many important points, Cathy, because it's true. A lot of times, I know for me, way back when I was 20, you know, I was going to be living happily ever after, like Shelley says. And sometimes, you know, Shelley and I have a platform that we work with the 4 power archetypes, which are the archetypes of the foundation and their survival. So what do a lot of women do? I know that I did, is you sell yourself short, you sell out. You're like, I want to be married, and I want that picket fence, and I want 2 kids, and I want to be loved forever. And of course, since we're from a different generation, taken care of by a man, right? That was the old tribal tapes. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you wake up one day, you're 32, and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't like my life. This is not who I am. Mm-hmm. And I think that happens to a lot of people. So I'm glad that you're saying that friendships are important. But even with that, I think as you have to grow together, because sometimes you grow apart. So what is a tip that you can tell, you know, couples, partners that have been together, but, a tip so that they don't start growing apart and they grow together.
Yeah.
And even come back together. I think that's a great
Yeah, come
Okay.
back together.
Come back together.
Yeah, we often think that as we're growing apart, well, the love's gone
Mm-hmm.
and we've grown apart. And the thing that we don't do is question that assumption that that's inevitable.
Right.
And it's crazy because of course you're going to grow apart.
Yeah.
Of course, if you don't inject energy and time and attention into
Right.
growing together,
Right.
anything, it dissipates. Like the law of entropy, everything dissolves, everything
Right.
decays eventually if you don't inject energy into it.
Right.
So it's really the difference between kind of creation and decay.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about love being created.
Yeah.
We walk around thinking love is fated. I'm waiting for the one. Once
Right.
I have the one,
Yeah, right.
everything will be fine. But how many times have you met the one, or wondered if you've met the one? Over and over again for some people. For some people, they never do, and that's a whole other story.
Right.
But when two amazing people can start in a relationship, the only way for that relationship to work is if they are skillful. Now, the couples who think that it's fated often are naturally skillful.
Okay.
And I've seen this because people will say to me, no, it's not fate. Sorry, so no, it's not created. We haven't done anything. It just happened. It was just amazing. And I watch them and, we'll be chatting and they'll suddenly a text will come in and they'll pick up the phone and they'll respond to it. And it's the other half just asking, how are you doing? Or how's your day? Oh, when do you need a lift home?
They're checking in. Yeah.
I know that they're doing the very first of the 12 relationship skills, which is responsiveness.
Yeah.
They are aware of what each other needs. They are responding. And I can go through my 12-point checklist and I can literally tick. And these people are loving their fated romance. They believe they met the one. And this is what happens when you learn the skills. You can find yourself feeling like you met the one.
That's great.
Which is great. It's magic. Yeah. It's like it sounds really boring, doesn't it, to be talking about the science of love? But really,
I think there's a lot on there now. People are, looking at isn't there like some 30 some odd questions or something that you can ask and they're intimate questions or, that you can ask on a first date and you can generate love with that person because of the type of questions and you're really getting deep into an authentic kind of conversation about one another. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I mean, I went on a date one time and a guy tried to pull that on me. I was like, whoa, first date. I'm like, whoa.
Oh my goodness. It's kind of, wow, intrusive, huh?
Well, some of them were, I was like, wow, I hadn't had anybody ask me those questions. And I was a little gun shy by it. But then once I knew what the whole scenario after the fact, I was like, oh, okay. If I had known that, I wouldn't have been so like, ooh,
So, yeah, exactly.
It's a funny one.
Yeah, sorry. It is. And it's like, and you bring up a really important point, Shelley, because we're used to just, having things easy and in flow. Yeah. And I think there are times where we really are at a point where we really want to find a significant partner, a life partner, and we're at the point where we go back to, you need to know who you are. You need to know what you want. Yeah. And at the same time, I think there's like a fine line of like going through an interview, right? And on a first date. And to me, I'm all about chemistry. I'm all about having those deep conversations. I know that I met my husband in the craziest place. And I always tell people, never give up on love, because I was older. I had been through, a really bad time in my past life. And I decided to just work on me. And I'm sharing this story for those of you listening that you might say, well, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 80, and no one is ever too old for love. And that's the way how I feel. Yeah. And he came into my life very unexpected in a way that I never even planned on it being. So I always tell people, have an open mind, because you might be where you least expect it and you're going to find the love of your life.
So what holds us back though from having great relationships, Kathy? What would you say is like the number one reason it holds us back from having great relationships with an
I think the number one reason is our belief.
Yes.
It's belief that it may, if we're lucky, land on us.
Yes.
That's the number one, because if we believe that and then things start to go wrong, we think that we got it wrong. So the number two problem and the number two blockage really is that we don't avoid the icebergs, what I call the relationship icebergs.
Right.
This is adapted from John Gottman's work. He's absolutely brilliant. The world's leading relationship scientist, talks about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah, I use the analogy of the ship. And so what of course can happen with a ship is that it can run aground on the icebergs.
Right, yeah.
And there are just these 4 things that we almost inevitably fall into if we're not careful. And they're really small, simple things. It can be the slightly kind of exasperated eye roll.
Oh.
Yeah. And you're like, why are they rolling? I'm like, why are you rolling? And it does, it dismantles any, because then you start second guessing yourself. You're like, why is he? It's subtle, right? Wow.
Yeah, it's subtle stuff. But if we don't guard ourselves and stop ourselves from doing that, it can destroy a relationship. That little eye roll is the strongest predictor of divorce happening several years down the line.
Oh my gosh.
Which is just crazy, isn't it? I mean, not just the one eye roll. But
I know, but it becomes a habit and the person.
It's hurtful. It's hurtful. It's a hurtful.
So say that does happen and you notice it, like everything's bliss. You're like psyched. You're in your relationship, everything's going well. And then all of a sudden something occurs and your partner gives you the eye roll. How should, and they're unconscious about it, but they're maybe annoyed with you or something you did. How would one handle that? Like you're like, oh my God, my feelings are hurt. How would you handle that?
Right.
Well, there's 2 things you can do. One is actually to recognize that underneath that eye roll, there's an unmet need. So your partner may well have been kind of really trying and hoping and wishing for you to be supporting them in a different way.
Wow. See, now that when
that's deep, Kathy.
That is awesome, because most often people are going to be victimized by it, which Shelley and I are like always talking about, these archetypes, and you're like feeling like, shoot, ooh, oh my gosh, he just hit me or she just hit me. I'm like, oh, and then it's all about me, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, if you flip it and say, oh, what did he need? And I didn't,
I didn't support him.
I didn't.
And here's the other piece of that, Kathy.
Brilliant.
That I read that book a million years ago. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And I have a great open conversation with my husband. But there are times men and women are emotionally very different. And I think that is a perfect example of you sharing with the viewers of that eye roll and that deep need that person needed that didn't get from the partner.
Yeah.
So we all have these needs. We all have basic needs. But what happens in a relationship is if we're asking for our needs to be met and we withhold love until our needs are met, then again, we're not going to be satisfied. Right. Because that we have a job, of course, to meet our own needs to a degree.
Right.
And also to meet our partner's needs. But there's something really amazing about this mindset. You can take an unconditionally loving mindset towards your partner. And that's a choice, not an easy choice. And sometimes an extremely difficult choice. But if
I agree. Yeah.
That unconditionally loving mindset towards your partner, then you almost inevitably, naturally are more likely to get your needs met.
You're absolutely right.
You'll find, because you're not grasping at them, you will find that you're liberating them. You can say what you need. You can say in a skillful way, I feel upset or I feel hurt right now. I need whatever it is you need. And not be attached to how they meet that need.
I like that. No attachment.
Unconditional love.
I love that.
And then your needs are much more likely to be met. And even if they're not, you have still become a more loving person. And so I suppose fundamentally and underneath all of this, for me, the whole purpose is for you and I to become the best versions of ourselves we can be on the planet.
That's beautiful.
To contribute as much as we can to society, to to our families, to the wider world, to be who we can be. And every situation we find ourselves in, we can see as a gift that helps us to do that. So even the most challenging situations can help us towards that goal, because that goal isn't dependent on the behavior or even the actions of somebody else.
Right. That's true. That goal is dependent on us.
Yeah, for
sure. That's a beautiful, because the only person that we can change is ourselves.
Yeah.
We can't change anybody else. And I think that what you just said is so beautiful, Cathy. Thank you for sharing that with our viewers.
You're welcome. No, it's powerful stuff. When you learn how to do these skills, they change everything.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
was working with somebody through lockdown who was in exactly the situation with their partner, that they were finding it incredibly challenging and difficult. I have a Facebook group, Lasting Love Facebook group.
Yeah.
And I just put a little poll in there saying, is your relationship getting better or worse with lockdown? Of course, for some people, this is this wonderful opportunity, isn't it? To be together and to spend more time together. And for other people, it brings up all of that challenge.
Right.
Now, I began working with somebody who's finding it incredibly difficult. And over the months, we worked on all the different skills. And the one that switched it for her was this choice, this unconditional mindset. And again, that just transformed everything for her.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And just
you noticed a big difference with her partner.
Decades of challenge have kind of just melted away.
That's beautiful.
Amazing. It's like you're upping your level of awareness, and then there's that whole attraction vibration shift and change, because your emotions change and you're not in those lower frequency emotions of feeling sad or depressed about something, or angry, or
reacting to a situation and immediately attacking, instead of standing back and retract and analyze and kind of align yourself with what's really going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Man. And some of that is about just feeling what we feel.
Right.
The science of love actually taught me to feel my feelings rather than interpret my feelings. Wait
a minute. I'm going to hold you there for a second. What is the difference between interpreting your feelings, which are emotions, than feeling them? Because I want you to explain this, because this is huge right now, right? What you're touching on, it's huge.
Yeah. It is. It's another of those massive shifts.
Yeah.
What we do when we are hurt, within a split second, we will interpret why. So I can give you an example from my relationship where I really thought my husband had done something very, very insensitive. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I knew the skills. So I just shut up. I said nothing. I just closed my mouth and held my tongue and did nothing. And as the day wore on, he noticed that I was a little bit quiet.
Yeah.
And he turned to me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I've got a lump in my throat and my shoulders are really tense."
Oh, wow.
And he put his arm around me and he said, "Was I really insensitive back there?" And it was like one of those fairy tales where you kind of, you don't expect that to work so perfectly. But because I hadn't said, "You were really insensitive back there," I got the response and the connection and the empathy I needed straight away.
No, he was aware.
Yeah, but only because there were no defenses.
Yeah.
As soon as you point the finger, so saying the word "you," pointing that finger, raises the other person's defenses almost inevitably. And I've seen this. So I do pre-marriage courses.
Oh, wow.
Church. And so the first time I did this, I strapped the vicar up to a heart rate monitor. And I told him I was going to do this little experiment.
I love this. Kind of like that movie.
Heart monitor. We're gonna see if we can get it stuck.
Oh my goodness. Reminds me of that movie that the guy did not a heart rate, but he did one of those truth or lying machines.
Or dare, whatever. Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Oh
oh,
my
wow.
So it was quite funny because he knew that I was going to do a little experiment with him.
Yeah.
And everybody watching, literally all I did was just say the word you in anger. And everybody watching could see the heart rate monitor rising. Because when we hear the word you in anger, even if our kind of logical, rational capacities are telling us
it's
this
so
is just
self-defensive,
just
right?
a joke.
Yes.
Our body, our biology is programmed to just flood. And so the heart rate rises. And what happens in your brain when your heart rate goes above 95 to 100 beats per minute, it's physiologically near impossible to empathize with the other person. So there is no point in pointing the finger.
Wow. I love what you did, though. I think sometimes you just have to not say a thing and just bite your tongue.
Yeah.
You have to
react.
I've done that because I really love my husband. And let me tell you, sometimes it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And it's this combination, it's this balance, isn't it? Of holding your tongue, but not suppressing anything.
No, you can't.
But so you've got to feel what you feel.
Right.
And the closer you can get to the actual sensation you're feeling, the better.
Right. And one thing I have learned, Cathy, is that sometimes you have to bite your tongue, because in that moment, that's not the best moment to sit and have a conversation.
Yeah.
The best moment is to wait, maybe a day or two, and to circle back and not judge, but to say, this is how I felt when you did this, and not put the blame, because you're absolutely right. When you say you or put the blame, it totally creates an energy of divisiveness and not inclusivity and not love.
Yeah. And you're also making assumptions, aren't you? As soon as you say it's your fault, there's a whole load of assumptions that they had motivations, that we can never know somebody else's motivations. We can never see inside somebody's mind or heart.
Exactly.
And so if we can believe the best of our partner, just believe that whatever they've done, even if it's pretty uncomfortable for us, just believe that they either did it unintentionally, or that they on some level, even if they were really unskillful, they had some good motivation there somewhere, or they were operating in fear. We can all identify and empathize with somebody who's afraid,
right?
All of those, just if we can bestow on them the kindness that we would bestow on a dear friend, then they become that, don't they? And they feel and are able to respond, and we're able to work things out together. So it's thinking of us as team rather than you.
And with the outcome in mind. I mean, sometimes it's better, because we're all like, I'm right, you're right. Sometimes it's better not even to go down that road, because at the end, what is it? What's the outcome that you want? Do you want to be right, or do you want to have peace?
Right. Yeah. Sometimes when maybe our partner might say something insensitive to us, and we, we're offended somehow by it. Is it because of all of a sudden we might fear that we're not being loved appropriately by them? And then how does that play out, and how do we overcome it in ourselves if we believe that they might? If we're fearful, like, say, it's been going on for a while, the little like eye circles, and, it's not, it hasn't just been like the start of it. Now we're in the, it's been going on for a year now, and things might be not as, sweet and nice, the honeymoon's over, and you're in there, and we're fearing now that something might be a little off with our relationship. How does one deal with that as they move forward to turn it around?
I think the first thing is to figure out, what does each person want? What do you really want? Because as soon as you elevate yourself beyond the what do you want in this moment, this argument, this situation, if you think, what do I really want? And you're able to talk about that, then everything else can fall into place. Now, I would say in that situation, what do we really want? Well, we want a fantastic marriage. We want an amazing marriage. Okay, so what are we willing to put into make sure that it is a fantastic marriage? Are we willing to learn relationship skills?
Right.
Are we willing to give the time and the energy and sometimes the kind of flipping our beliefs on their heads?
Yes.
Amazing
Beliefs, right?
beautiful relationship.
The fearful beliefs that we're having, we have to flip those on their heads.
Yes, I think
so. That's amazing, because we had one of a previous guest who works fit brain, fit body, and she was saying that she believed that fear is a skill. It's like something that we practice over and over again, and we get really good at it. And I think that might happen too in our relationships when we feel like we're not being loved enough or something, and then we project them on our partners.
And I think
like
also,
muscle, isn't it? Whatever muscles we use are the muscles that grow. We're strengthening. What's actually happening is we're strengthening neural pathways.
right.
Once we have that fear, if we don't question it, if we believe our own fears,
Right.
then that will wire together.
Right.
And it'll be easier to have that fear again.
So how do you get people out of that? Like if you have somebody come to you, Kath, and you're like, oh my God, they're so like, they got this, and it's blatant. How do you maybe just to kind of, throw them a little zinger to work at, some homework, like a quick one, what would you say to them?
Okay, well, I'll give you a really quick one, and it's fantastic. And I'll credit Byron Katie with this, who you may know. Her 4 questions and a turnaround are the fastest way that I have found to get people to question their fearful beliefs. So you say to someone, what is that fearful thought? Once they've identified what the fearful thought is, you then just ask 4 really simple questions. You say, is it true? Now, they may initially say, yeah, it's true. Second question, can you be absolutely certain that it's true? And usually, when you make someone pin it down to absolute certainty, can they be absolutely certain it's true? Rarely can anyone be absolutely certain that their fearful thought is true. The third question helps to shake it even more, because it says, how does it make you feel when you believe that it's true?
Oh, wow.
And so then you're thinking, then you're feeling your feelings, you're describing these awful feelings and how they're impacting you. And of course, that impacts your physiology. It actually makes you more likely to become ill in the long term. All of these, we are totally connected, as your previous guest will have shared, I'm sure. And then you ask, how would you feel if you dropped that thought?
Zinger.
If you change that story,
right?
If you don't believe that fearful thought, how would you feel then? And almost instantly, everybody will say something along the lines of, oh, it would just be such a relief. Oh, I'd feel liberated, and you see people's expression change. I didn't know that I could drop my fearful thought. I didn't know that I could choose to not believe it.
Yeah.
So isn't that funny? Then you get them to write as many alternatives as possible. What else could be true? How would you turn that around? My partner doesn't love me.
Yeah.
Maybe my partner does love me. Oh, well, okay. So now I'm going to start looking for evidence that my partner does love me. We will answer the questions that are in our minds.
I love that.
Yeah, the most powerful thing.
This is how we create our reality, right, Kathy? Like, this is how it's done. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Change your questions and you change your relationship.
Wow.
And you change your life.
Yeah, exactly. Your destiny, everything.
And your destiny.
Yeah.
But it takes work, because you have to let go of those old tapes, of those old relationships, of those old wounds. And one thing that I'm going to tell the viewers, and Cathy and Shell, I know that you guys know this, you have to have faith, total faith, that when you meet someone, you just, sometimes we have those old tapes and those old wounds, but, go slow and have faith. And what would you say to people that are trying to go there? It's like swimming again in a pool, but they're, you're going to change your tapes, but You might still be ultra cautious. What's a good tip to give them, Kath?
Wow. I mean, there's so many things you could offer. I think just really investing the time and energy in learning the skills.
Right.
I don't think there's anything that will beat that.
Yeah.
Really, just having the determination. If you want a relationship to work,
Right.
And you really
can't
care.
just hope
Yeah.
and pray.
Yeah.
You've got to do something.
It's action. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to take action, and you've got to know what action to take. So in my first marriage, I had a little list. I found it years later, actually, but it was a list on my phone, or my Palm Pilot, I think it was back then. And right at the top, it said, create a beautiful marriage.
Oh,
So I had that intention way back in that first relationship, and I worked at it. I went and I got support. I spoke to older, wiser women who'd had great relationships.
Right.
I worked so hard. But what I discovered is, because almost nobody knows this stuff, almost nobody really knows the relationship skills.
right.
Nobody was teaching me how to work at it. So I
Mm.
was working in all the wrong ways. I was focusing on what was going wrong. And I
Right.
was trying to fix it, which really meant I was trying to fix him.
Right.
And that was completely 180 degrees the opposite of what I could have been doing,
Right.
which was understanding what the science of love shows. Of course, the science of love hasn't been around very long. It's been around, well, it's the last 40 years, the research. So only really for the last 20 years has anything been there that we can say, absolutely, this is how this thing works. And so I feel really lucky to kind of be alive now, to know this.
To have access to all that information, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
It's a beautiful time to be here and to help the planet and the people move forward. That's what Shell and I say every day.
yeah,
But you know, it's things like this that just, we should teach this to our kids in elementary school.
Yeah.
So it's cultivating self-love.
Yes. Self-love. Yes.
Yeah.
Self-love, because you got to love yourself to attract and to draw in the person that's going to be at the right, vibration, frequency, have a similar mindset, and is willing to actually do similar what you're doing as well. Like if you're putting in all that energy, you got to have somebody reciprocate, right?
Yeah.
And deep friendships. I think people are going to say, oh my gosh, I got to I think a deep connection is having a really great friendship and open communication, and being, allowing yourself to totally show up as who you are. Not someone that other person wants you to be, or someone that you think you need to be to attract that other person, but just, honey, here I am, raw and real. Take it or next. There's always somebody out there coming in, and that's the universe. And you just have to have faith and trust yourself that you are at the right place at the right time, and everything's happening, and it will happen for you. But Cathy, I just love what you're doing. I really do.
You have to, for our listeners, they have to go and check Kath out, because she's been on the TEDx. She gave an amazing talk. And if you want to learn more about the relationship, you gotta listen to her whole talk, because how she puts it all together with the icebergs and then the joy compass and all that is just, I love how you tell it in a story. And then too, how when you work with your clients and you do the portraits, and setting that long-term intention, which I think sometimes when couples get married, maybe, the first ones that maybe from our age bracket, the old paradigm, and then they're trying to keep it together, they might not have had that long-term projection after they got like the picket fence, the dogs, the kids, and then they kind of lost sight of that vision that needs to be created, and to have those skills that you're actually teaching. I think it's an amazing thing that you do, for sure.
And I know a lot of my friends, the empty nest syndrome is when they've either gotten divorced or they've gotten closer together. So that's another thing, because you're living life and you're so busy, and all of a sudden you don't have to do the carpool, or you don't have to get up at 6 a.m. to make breakfast. So what happens?
This time with this person who you knew 20 years ago, and now how do you reconnect?
Yeah, you wake up and you're like, who's that person in my bed? You know, because you have all this time. But I just love your energy and everything that you share with our viewers, Cathy. And I am going to go check you out on Facebook.
Thank you.
Yeah,
well, I would love to
shout
invite
out of-
you. I have some courses coming up right now. So
Oh,
I have
tell us about them.
the art and science of lasting love and the art and science of finding love. And these are 6 module programs. So we go through all of the skills step by step by step. And it's just, it's amazing to watch people go through the process, because the inner work, you were talking a lot about this inner work. Once we've got that inner work down, everything else suddenly becomes easier. We know who we are. We love who we are.
Yeah.
And then we've got so much more to give in a relationship. So it's really good fun, and we work together. We do kind of weekly Zoom chats, a little bit like this. Always at really small, intimate groups, and access to me to actually.
And when does that? Isn't there? You have one starting very soon, right, Cathy?
I have one starting on the 28th of January.
Oh wow!
Great. So just in time, people, so you can get on it. You can find
right before Valentine's Day.
Exactly. Exactly. And we'll have the links in our show notes, so you can reach out to Cathy, and then she's my Facebook friend too, so you can always reach out to her that way. But you can
always find me on the Lasting Love group. That's where I show up most online.
The Lasting Love group on Facebook.
Yeah, Lasting Love.
So Kath, I got one question for you before we send you off. It's like, what do you think it'll take for people to evolve consciously as individuals, and you know, how will they take that into society?
Wow, that's a question.
Well, you had a great answer. I already have it here, but I want you to share it. Yeah, you said. I'll lead a little bit. You had said everyone understanding that love isn't a feeling or a blessing of fate stowed upon us, but a skill set, a mindset, and habits of the heart. I loved that. That's why I was like, we gotta get, you had written it. I was like, you probably forgot, but I was like, gotta get that in there, because it's such a great observation about what the world needs today, and to be realistic about our relationships in the long term when we interact with people. Even if we do get divorced and stuff, we still should be kind to those partners that we might have, had kids with, or, especially during these times. Sometimes people go off and they're like, oh, they hate their exes, and there's so much negative talk, and you can't get into a relationship, a new one, if you're still talking like negatively about your past.
Any negative energy that's going backwards. Just will hold you back. So I think learning the relationships, which are about habits of heart. At the end of the day, we learn these skills, but it's not until we absorb them, it's not until they become mindsets and habits of heart that we change our lives. So if everybody could evolve like that, the world would be amazing. Wonderful.
Yeah, and I know you're all about that. I've known you for a couple of years, have seen your courses that you put out, like even when we were doing our class together, and they were amazing. And even the work that you're doing to date is really amazing, and would benefit somebody in any stage of the love cycle that they're in.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you so much for coming to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving of your love and your time to us and our viewers, because you just changed so many people's lives just with one little nugget of wisdom, right? I just love it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's such a
kind group hug.
I think so, yeah. We could do this. Okay, so this is something I've been sharing through lockdown, and it works. If you hold your arms like this, and I count down, just give yourself a real squeeze and notice what you feel. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Squeeze. Did you feel that tingle?
Yes.
That's oxytocin.
Very nice.
Cuddle hormone. So take that hug and share it around.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. I love that. We're gonna do that now more often. I love that. You don't think of these things. You think of them when you're in person, but not on a Zoom call. That was awesome, Cathy. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. So lovely to see you.
Love to
Take care, everyone.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.
So,
Hey,
wow, wasn't that great? Wasn't Cathy Garner the relationship coach? And
she was amazing. I wish I would have met her a long time ago, because I'm telling you, she is the real deal, guys. And I am going to be running over to that Facebook group and joining. It's Lasting Love, right, Shell?
right. Yeah. And she does really amazing portraits. So, for if you're looking for, a gift or whatever, that, I mean, I just think they would be amazing. She writes all these words. It's amazing. And then also you got to check out her TED Talk. Really very cool. And like we said, she uses the science of love to help people find love, stay together, and deepen their love. She's been a coach since, I think, 2001. And she's worked with university researchers and leaders and has been offering relationship coaching since 2013. She's obviously, from what we listened to today, very passionate about turning love around. And so if you guys are out there and you got, love is on the rocks because you've been in lockdown, you should check her out, right, Shell?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I love about her is that she has done her research, she has studied, and and she said something that was very profound. And she says that love is, you can create your love. You can love. It's all about research. And she said the science of love. And I just love that. The science of love.
Right. It's amazing.
Oh,
it's really amazing. She's definitely onto something, I think. And something that you don't hear, like when you see all those other, people on Facebook claiming that they have the answers for dating and stuff like that. If you really want to get yourself and your act together and really meet, or you want your relationship to improve because maybe, you're going through a tough time, she is really somebody to look at and go and take one of her courses, or, hire her as a coach. For sure.
Absolutely. And like she said, she's never lost a relationship yet. And I love that.
Yeah, right.
Because you have to be very careful who you align yourself with, because you want to make sure that you're spending your time, your hard-earned money, and you wanted to make a difference in your life, and you want to leave with that you feel fulfilled and you feel that you've been honored.
Right.
And Cathy's one of those kind of people. So she's great. And
well said, Shell. Well said. Awesome. Yeah. So on our next show, we're continuing the love stuff, and we have quantum energy and sexual healer and a divine feminine confidence and love mentor coming on. Her passion is for rediscovering that true unconditional love is. And she comes from her journey back to remembrance of her own feminine divinity. She's a spiritual teacher. She guides women back to their divine sensuality by facilitating healing and growth through self-love practices, transformational mentoring, and introspective mindfulness. She also works one-on-ones with clients. She hosts workshops, retreats, and webinars. No retreats lately with COVID, but she does do them for women all over the world. And her kind of motto is let more love into your life. So we can't wait to, you gotta check that's coming up in the
amazing too. Katarina is a bubble of love. That's what she is. She is a bubble of love. Yes.
Yeah, she's awesome too. So if this is your first time listening and want to learn more about us, go back and listen to season 1, A Holistic Approach to Life, because it's jam-packed with information you won't want to miss. And if you enjoyed this episode, please go leave a review. It helps people find the show. And on the review, mention Cathy Garner and how she might have helped you, or you can mention how we little two chickies might have helped you too, or motivated you. So remember to subscribe or download on iTunes or YouTube, and you can find everything you need to know by going to our website. Do you want to say it, Shell?
Yes, the Evolve 360 show. Now, I just wanted to say one more thing before we sign off. Cathy said something very profound, and that is we need to work on ourselves to really find that deep love, relationship, and connection. And we are starting our 5-day power up experience, guys.
Yeah, you gotta check it out, man.
Yeah, this comes out. So go on the evolve360show.com and check it out and sign up, guys. It's free. It's 5 days. I don't want you to think that we're going to be, like teaching you to death, because it's self-paced to a point. But here is the clincher. It is going to get you to start thinking about you, working on you, so you can continue lasting love or create that love that you're trying to find. And just, it's all around a good time. We're going to have a ton of fun, and it's a real story. And I just had to interject that, Shell, because Cathy was so right on point. You got to work on you to find the love you want.
Absolutely. And create it, right?
Yes. And create it.
So this is
Cheli Grace
and Shelley Devine with Life and Business with Soul. See you on the next Evolve 360 Shelley Shell Show. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys. We love you.
Bye.